Good evening, everybody, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome back to Hoops HD Championship Week Video Notebook Day or night, as it might be, number 12.
It's day
Uh,
12
uh,
of the
David,
week. It's the
uh,
12th day of the week.
well, David, there's 12 days of Christmas, there's 12 days of Championship Week, right?
There's more this year.
Uh,
There's normally 13 if you're ever counting in a normal championship week
so a
year.
baker says, so tomorrow is Selection Sunday.
No, because we started early this year, and in fact we had days off. But no, conference tournaments typically start the Monday, two
Monday,
Mondays before
either Monday,
selections.
Monday or Tuesday, depending on the
Yeah,
year. Yeah.
right.
And
So
yeah, but it's our 13th, sorry, our 12th day of championship week for this year
yeah,
already. And we still have multiple conferences that haven't even started their conference tournament yet and aren't even going to be starting them tomorrow. But uh, we've got a lot to get to. My notes here say do news and notes. I got nothing down though. I don't think there was much in terms of news or notes outside the conference tournament play today.
no, no other games going on right now. I'm trying to think of NCAA protocol as a hoot. If you haven't seen that. But all
Yeah,
right.
and these kids that are winning these conference tournaments are pretty much going right from the tournament to Indy already. So
Yeah.
they're getting,
Uh,
if not over in the next few days, they're going to be heading out at least. Yeah,
yeah, I think they're going to have people getting there as early as Saturday.
yeah.
And this would be the automatic qualifiers. And the reason for that is, uh, as you know, Chad, well, this is more notes than news. We'll
Mhm.
just recap. Every conference, very few of which got back to us, by the way, has a contingency plan in case there's a positive test with their automatic qualifier between now and the start of the tournament.
No,
So
it's between that. The contingency teams come up through 48 hours after the field is announced. So through Tuesday night
yeah,
at six. So through exactly 1 week from today at 6 p.m. Yeah.
right. But for those that have already won it, or that have already won automatic qualifiers, they want you and Indy as soon as Saturday to get inside that bubble.
Yep. And the teams that are the contingency teams, even though your season's very, very good chances over, you still have to, isolate and test and everything
Right. Yeah.
on campus, just in case your automatic qualifier does bounce out. Again, once we get past 6 p.m. on Tuesday, if a team can't play because of COVID, they'll just be a no contest, and their opponent
Right.
will advance.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the actual games that were played. And I guess we'll start off with the big one. We expected a blowout, but it was not that at all. It ended up actually being a good game, believe it or not,
I,
in the West Coast Conference Championship game between the Zags and BYU.
yes.
BYU off. Let's quickly recap before we get to that, though, because we didn't discuss the game last night because we recorded early. BYU off of a hard fought, tough game against Pepperdine that they won in overtime. Uh, you know, uh, after BYU tied it at the buzzer at the end of regulation on a Colby Ross three, Pepperdine tied it to force overtime. BYU wins the overtime win to get there. And how bad, I guess, week they played against Pepperdine, they played so much better against the Zags today, David.
Yeah, it was quite a contrast in 24 hours, and you said it. And they were behind for a lot of that game. And if you didn't stay up and watched it, you missed a really exciting game. But I was just like, oh my God, I just want to go to bed. Please, why is this going to overtime? But
Honestly fell asleep through about 10 minutes of the second half. Luckily, I woke up for the end of the second
yeah,
half and overtime.
right. So BYU getting the win last night. This is a team that was already inside the bubble. There's a real good chance now that they're going to be in the top half of the bracket. Uh, but tonight it was just a phenomenally well played game. BYU 8 of 11 from beyond the arc in the first half, shooting over 70% for the half. And they had about a 12-point lead, but you knew, just law of averages, they weren't going to be able to keep shooting in that pace,
Well,
and
well,
they
they,
did.
well, David, I'll put it this way: BYU had the season high of points scored against Gonzaga in the first half, when they scored 53 of them.
Yeah.
They scored 78 on the game. That tells you the difference of the two halves, doesn't it? Right there.
Yes, it does. So 53 in the first half, 25 in the second. But a lot of credit to Gonzaga here. One of the things that you constantly hear about the Zags throughout conference play, anyway, is they're not being tested. They're not being tested. It's not as if dominating teams is somehow a weakness. Now I know what they're saying, that they could potentially get into a game situation that they're not used to being in, and that puts them at a disadvantage as to someone that's from a power conference and has lifted a lot of weight. But the results have not shown that. Gonzaga has an unfair perception of them that they always bow out early in the tournament. And I went back and looked. They've lost as the better seeded team, fewer times than just about anybody.
Yeah,
Since, yeah,
there's one Final Four though, and that's kind of what I think
yeah.
people have in mind when you talk about the Zags. But this is it. They enter the NCAA tournament undefeated with a realistic chance of being the first team to go undefeated and win a national championship since Bobby Knight's Indiana Hoosiers way back,
Yeah.
30, 40 plus years ago. So
Mhm.
uh, it's congrats to the Zags. They get a trophy. This is not the trophy they want, though. They're the trophy they want is going to be coming in about another 4 weeks from now, or 3 weeks from now, still. So,
Yeah. And there's some really good team. Another really good team is Baylor. If the chalk holds and they end up playing each other, that would be a massively popular championship game.
yeah, yeah, if we can get there, but we know
Yeah.
that these teams have to get through games to get there. But David, let me ask you this: the Zags haven't gotten this tough game from BYU and really responding in the second half the way they did. Do you think that might, help them mentally heading into the NCAA tournament because they're going to get probably not, definitely almost definitely not in their first round game, but they're by the earliest their second round game or their Sweet 16 game that they should get a team on par with BYU in quality.
They will probably as early as the second round.
Yeah.
An 8 seed, while inferior to Gonzaga, is probably superior to the teams they've been facing in the West Coast Conference. I do get that, but I also think that it's hard to stay focused when you're undermatched all the time when you're in an under the radar conference, which the West Coast isn't. But say Dayton last year is another example. When you're really good and your fans are really excited, but you're being undermatched 80% of the time in conference or all of the time in conference, the way Gonzaga is, I think there's a tendency to sort of get bored with your season and just start looking ahead to the NCAA tournament because you're just itching for that. It's hard to not look ahead. The one thing about Gonzaga is that they never really seem to look ahead. I mean, even there were games where it looked like they sleepwalked, but they still dominated.
Yeah.
I'm not really worried about this Gonzaga team at all. I don't think they're ill prepared. I just don't buy that argument.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, then let's move on here. The
Yeah,
Zags are in. They will hear their name as the most likely the number one overall team. I think there is a
probably
bit of a
so.
debate if Baylor does win the Big 12 tournament that Baylor's going to have better quality of wins, but Baylor does have a loss. The Zags don't have any losses. Uh,
Yeah, I
we
think
had
the
we had
committee will
four,
make them the over one. I think we might actually go with Baylor though, Ted.
we had four other championships that were handed out today. Four other automatic bids, all in conferences that only could put a single team into the field. Start things off in the Colonial, where we had this fascinating 6 versus 8 seed battle here. Elan looking for their first ever NCAA tournament. Drexel looking for their first bid in 25 years, although I honestly think it should have been their first bid in 9 years. If you may remember, they were really poorly
Snubbed.
left snubbed by the tournament committee as for an at-large bid. I think it was the 2012 tournament, but
Yeah.
uh, Drexel and Alon here. Drexel, David, they led most of the game. Alon tried to make a late run, but just didn't have enough.
Yeah, and that's the best way to sum it up. Congratulations to Drexel. They were a team that I think both of us kind of liked this team in the preseason
They
coming into
they
the
were they were I think they were both of our preseason picks to win this, so we were right.
Yeah, we were right. Certainly not the most impressive team throughout the year, but they had some pretty good pieces, and it came together in the conference tournament. But yeah, you were right. That was a horrible snub.
Um, Horizon League Championship today as well. We really thought we were going to have a real good game between this Oakland team because of how well they played, even though they were coming in with a losing record, and Cleveland State, who would seem to only win games when they were close. We were kind of wrong.
Yeah, it got close at times. Every now and then, Oakland would get it within arm's length, but they could never really catch up.
I
At
kind of,
no point did it feel like
yeah,
Cleveland State was
it
not
kind
going
of
to
felt like
win.
a 10-point lead the entire way. Is the way.
Yeah, it did, and at no point did it not feel like Cleveland State was not in control. But Cleveland State, a really good story, sort of they missed the conference tournament just a couple years ago. I think the last time we had an NCAA tournament, they weren't even in the Horizon League. 2 years later, the champs, a real fun story there for
Yeah,
them.
the Horizon League likes to change its tournament format every year. That was one of the years that they decided not to take all the teams.
Yeah,
As you can see from this field here, they took all the teams this year.
yeah,
They'll probably have a completely new format next year too. I think the Horizon
yeah.
League has literally changed its tournament format each of the last
Well,
5 years.
they changed the format to take everybody this year, and they completely one up themselves by changing common sense seating.
Yeah, Oakland. Any way you look at the standings, finished about 6th or 7th in this conference, but they got the 3 seeds somehow.
Yeah,
Um, but congrats again to the Vikings there in the NCAA tournament. Northeast Conference championship game on Bryant's home court, Mount St. Mary's and Bryant. And right from the start, Dave, now the score ended up being 73-68, but right from the start, I think about 12 minutes into the game, the score was still in the teens. And right then, we know Mount St.
yeah.
Mary's is a slow team. Bryant's a fast team. I looked at it, I said, Mount's going to win this game because at least early on, they were controlling the tempo.
Yeah, that was a good observation made by you and Rocco last night, and you were right. I remember thinking because I thought Bryant was honestly going to run them over. I had just been kind of more impressed with them throughout the year, and they were at home, and I just thought it would be their night. It wasn't. Mount St. Mary's on their way to Dayton. The tournament's not in Dayton, but they might be going there anyway.
Maybe as a stopover on the way
Yeah.
on the way up to Indianapolis. Actually, yeah, but the Mount actually built up a lead. Bryant made a late charge in this one. Charles Pride for Bryant, a real strong game. I think he had 30 some odd points, but they just wasn't quite enough to catch up. And they came close. If they could have tied this game, I think forced overtime, Bryant would have won probably by 10 in the overtime period.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how hard they were coming on fast. Although Peter Kist from Bryant was not very happy if you saw him rip his shirt off.
Yeah, it was a little bit ridiculous, but
Yeah, it was.
certainly frustrating.
But congrats to the Mountaineers. They are the second team with the Mountaineers team to join Appalachian State, and West Virginia will be there too. We'll have a lot of Mountaineers in in Indianapolis this year.
Right.
Let's jump over to the 5th of the 5 championships handed out tonight in the Summit League, where David, this game, Oral Roberts jumped out to about a 3,000-2 lead in the first 5 minutes of the game, and I think everybody that didn't have a scoreboard on and just turned the game off missed actually a very good ending when Oral Roberts won the first half by 25 and North Dakota State almost won the second half by the same amount of points.
You're right. So yeah, Oral Roberts sprinted ahead and then sprinted further ahead. And at one point early, they had a 25-point lead in the second half.
Yeah.
And it wasn't North Dakota State chipped away at it. They got it below 20 and then they got it below 15 and then they got it to single digits.
That's when I turned
and
the game back on.
I remember at the under 4 timeout thinking it's within reach. And then it was down to 4 and then it was down to 2 and then they tied it. And I'm like, North Dakota State's going to win this. They've got all the momentum. When they tied it with less than a minute to go, I thought it was theirs. It wasn't. A big play by Oral Roberts at the end of the game, but
for Francis Lasses for Oral Roberts, a block on the on the what could have been the game. Actually, the shot that could have put North Dakota State in the lead late, and then a foul and a couple of free throws locked it up for Oral Roberts there.
Yeah, but very much on brand for the Summit League tournament. This tournament, it's under the radar. We know about it, but it is routinely. It gives us. It seems like of the collection of games that you get, and it's only 7, but 5 of them are typically unbelievably awesome.
And you know what? It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny. North Dakota State in their first round game against Kansas City kind of did the reverse. They had a huge lead that they almost blew in that game. In this game, they had a huge deficit that they almost came back from. So
yeah. But congrats to Oral Roberts. Really looked impressive in all 3 of their games. Well, at least for 2.5 of them.
This is Oral Roberts. I think you could technically call this their first ever Summit League championship. They have won this conference before, but it was
Midwestern Collegiate.
It was the Mid-Continent Conference.
Or Mid-Continent. Yeah,
it was the Mid-Continent.
Midwestern Collegiate's now the Horizon League. The Mid-Continent was this one.
Yeah. The Oral Roberts actually left the Mid-Continent when it was still the Mid-Continent, went to the Southland for a while, came back into here. Since their return, this is their first championship. So congrats to the Golden Eagles, on to the NCAA tournament as well.
Right.
Let's run into some other conferences here. And it was day 2 of the Metro Atlantic, and this was actually a really fun. This has been a fun conference, so fun tournament so far. We had a
Well, today's
snoozer.
games, yeah,
Yesterday's game, the Canisius Rider game, was a good one. The early game today, the Iona Quinnipiac game, Rick Pitino's team just rolled. But how about the Fairfield Manhattan? I think it was called basketball that they were playing.
yes. It was exciting, poorly played basketball. I wish Zach was here because he is a good enough wordsmith to explain what it was, where you and I are not. But what a crap show!
And let's talk about what happened here at the end of regulation.
Yeah, okay,
Manhattan is down by 3 points. They have a guy on the floor by the name of Ethan Lasco. He's a senior.
yeah,
He averages about 2 minutes a game. His average was 1.9 points per game. I think he did 3 3-pointers on the entire season. One of the guys on the very end of the bench, but
yeah,
for maybe because they were missing a few players or whatever reasons, I don't have the complete details. He's out there, gets the ball about 5 feet beyond the 3-point arc with about half a second left in the game and puts up the shot before the buzzer. And would you believe the darn thing goes through the net?
yeah,
Nothing but net to tie it up. Probably the highlight of the kid's career.
yeah,
Absolutely. And believe it or not, at the end of regulation, down by a point, Lasco had the ball again, but he could not get a shot off.
yeah. Oh man,
If he had hit that one, he would have been a hero in
yeah,
Manhattan. They would have been
yeah.
erecting a statue for the kid.
Right. So Manhattan goes out to Fairfield, but I mean, they did kind of have at least a championship week moment after a very, very frustrating overall season. That's something that they can kind of look back on, that shot to force overtime. So they take something away from it.
Uh,
Um,
Tomorrow we have 2 of the 4 quarterfinals. We have today's 2 winners are in action. We have the Iona Siena game and the Fairfield Monmouth game. Uh, I don't think Fairfield has a prayer against Monmouth,
no, I
David.
don't either.
But
But
I think Rick Pitino's Iona team against Siena could be interesting.
it could be, especially, and this is a team that was just decimated by COVID all year long, but it appears that they're finally healthy. They have more momentum now than they've had at any point in the season since November. Sienna better watch out.
Yeah, I would not be shocked one bit to see Iona win this game.
I wouldn't either.
But that is where we are in the Metro Atlantic. It was also first round day. Let's go to the big one that happened today. The 3 games in the ACC today, beginning with Pitt Miami game, which was you know Pitt team that was down a few players. Amazingly, 4 players had the entire 73 points for Pittsburgh today.
Yeah.
And Champagne, who is their best player, was held to fairly minimal. I think like maybe 10 or 11 of those points, which is I think why David Miami found a way to win this game.
Yeah, Pitt shorthanded, not getting any help from their bench, but kept it close the whole way through.
And not getting any help from 5 for 14 free throw shooting either.
Yeah. Miami, kind of a disappointing season. They actually showed signs of being really good at times, but injuries had really set them back. So, like today's game was just kind of a tale of I don't want to say underachieving, but bad luck. Teams that were bad, but do more, probably as much, if not more so, to circumstance than anything else. But Miami getting the win, they live another day. I think it will only be one more day, but they do live another day.
I think they can give Clemson a game tomorrow. I really
You
do.
really,
I don't have. It's not that I have faith in Miami. It's I don't have faith in Clemson at the moment. I really
yeah.
don't. In fact, when we get to the NCAA tournament, I'm going to be picking Clemson for an early exit. I can tell you that already.
Okay.
Duke rolled Boston College as expected. They get Louisville. Let's talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow's Duke Louisville game. And Duke is technically alive for an at-large bid still, but they absolutely have to beat Louisville and maybe need more than that still.
I think they need more than that.
Yeah.
Beating Louisville gets them to maybe the game that they need to win to play in the game they need to win to get a bid.
But Louisville, on the other hand, really could use this win also to lock up a bid.
I think they could, and we've been going back and forth with this for weeks. Well, I say we have. I have not liked Louisville. The rest of the panel has, and to be honest, when you peek at other bracket prognosticators or bracketologists or whatever we want to call them, they all seem to like Louisville a lot more than I do. I have them straddling the bubble. I won't have them in probably if they don't win tomorrow. And even if they do, I don't know how much you move ahead, you move up a team for beating someone behind them. Now, if they beat Florida State, they are skyrocketing up my seed list.
Absolutely. But I think this could be a good game tomorrow, this
Yeah.
Louisville.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's hugely important for both teams.
Yeah. Also hugely important. We'll get to the bottom game in a second. Soccer hugely play. Let's jump up to the early game tomorrow. Syracuse NC State, two teams that are right there on the cut line. Syracuse very close to in or out. NC State slightly behind that, I think. The loser, this is an elimination game. Now the winner is not necessarily in the field, David. I think the loser, their season's over.
I would agree with that.
And then other than the NIT, but
I would agree with that. NC State looking a lot better in the latter part of the season than they did earlier. I kind of like them to win this game, but I agree with that. This is an elimination game.
Finally, the last game of the night there, Wake Forest had a huge lead over Notre Dame. Most of this game, like a double-digit lead for quite a while. Notre Dame gets the late comeback, and one of the shots of the day here, Trey Wirtz, 3 at the buzzer to steal it from Wake Forest and let Notre Dame advance to play another day.
Yeah, congrats to the Irish. One of the biggest moments in sports for that university's history today.
Yeah, absolutely. They're hot. They beat Florida State. Now they got this exciting buzzer beater win today. They get Carolina tomorrow in a game that Carolina I think is in. I think they're fairly safely in.
Yeah, they would.
That doesn't help by losing to Notre Dame, though.
Yeah, they would really be doing themselves a favor to win tomorrow.
Okay. Do you think that Carolina does win?
No.
You think they're losing to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I like the way Notre Dame's been playing. Yeah. North Carolina, while I know that this is kind of an upset, and I wouldn't be floored if Carolina wins. But if you're asking me who I'm going to go with, I'm going with the Irish in this one.
That's a good call. Good call. I don't think I'm going to go with you, but I could see it happen.
Yeah, they've been playing a little more inspired ever since Mike Bray got brewed, ironically. Now, I like this Virginia Tech team. I think whoever wins tomorrow, I like Virginia Tech again, whereas I don't like Louisville as much as everybody else. I like Virginia Tech more.
Virginia Tech coming off of a long layoff, though, and we don't know how many players could be on the court, if they're going to have guys that can't even play yet. So, but we'll see. We'll find out more about that tomorrow, hopefully. It was first round day in the Big West Conference, where our good friend Rocco Miller from Bracketeer.org, who follows the Big West more than we even do, and we follow the Big West a lot, said that these are going to be 2 easy games. Northridge and Fullerton would roll. So sorry, Rocco, you actually went over 2 in the Big West today. Long Beach, despite the fact that one of their top players had been dismissed from the team earlier this week, absolutely blew out Cal State Northridge. And quite frankly, Cal Poly was big on Fullerton most of the way. Fullerton made a late run, but just didn't have enough to catch up all the way. And we have the 9 and the 10 seeds advancing, David.
Yeah, we do. And I was kind of surprised by both results. Not that they won, but that they won the way that they did. Yeah. And I don't know. I've been big on the Gauchos since October.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll come back to this again tomorrow night. The conference actually has Wednesday off because they're playing the women's there also. Tomorrow's Wednesday is quarterfinal day for the women. So in terms of where we go from here in the conference tournament, we'll come back to it because we've got a lot more to get to tonight still. So we want to keep things rolling here. But we will be previewing those games in tomorrow night's notebook. Southland Conference, it was opening day. And we had a real good game between Southeastern Louisiana and McNeese State to start the Southland tournament in the first ever 8-9, 7-10 round here in this conference tournament. But Southeastern Louisiana was up by 15 points with 5.5 minutes to go, and McNeese came roaring back. I really thought McNeese was going to catch them.
Yeah, I did too. I was kind of, having not seen McNeese do too much of anything impressive all year, I was kind of surprised that they were able to fight back the way that they did. But it was, I guess, all for naught. Sela moves on.
They get New Orleans. Houston Baptist rolled. Houston Baptist.
I wouldn't say rolled.
No. This game was actually back and forth most of the way. Houston Baptist in the last 5 minutes or so took over and won it. a bit of a seeding upset. Incarnate Word, do want to congratulate them. This was the first time they'd ever played in the Southland Conference tournament.
Yeah.
They'd never even qualified for before. They have played in a CIT before while they were transitional, but first ever Southland tournament. But David, as we move into tomorrow's games, New Orleans, Southeastern Louisiana, Lamar, Houston Baptist. I was taking a look at this bracket earlier, and Rocco pointed this out last night. You got two halves of a bracket
Yeah.
here.
This was great. Yeah. A Louisiana region and a Texas
Well,
region.
I think, Dave, we need to fix it a little bit on the screen
Okay.
here too.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Yes. Yes.
So the Louisiana region of the Southland tournament, we got New Orleans and Southeastern Louisiana tomorrow. What do you think of that one?
New Orleans.
I agree there. And how about Lamar and Houston Baptist?
Lamar. Oh my
Okay.
God. Yeah.
Form is going to hold here in the Louisiana and the Texas regions
Yeah.
until we get to the final two. I guess where do they play that one? If you have a Louisiana region and Texas region,
I higher seated.
higher
Oh
seeded.
no, I guess it would be in Texas.
They think they'll play the whole thing again.
They're going to move it to New Orleans.
There we go. Louisiana region, Texas, Conference USA. We had only a single game because of Florida International having to withdraw from the tournament due to COVID.
Yeah.
Middle Tennessee advances. Southern Miss, Rice.
If there was ever such thing as a blog game, what's funny, Chad, is that I watched this. I watched all 40 minutes.
This was a good game. It was
Yeah.
actually a 14. Rice was down 6 points and went on a 14-0 run late to suddenly turn a 6-point deficit into an 8-point lead, which is what won them the game.
Yeah.
But
So
until we really need to discuss it much more.
no. Anyway.
But okay,
we've got-
we are to move on to the second round tomorrow. They're going to play
Yeah.
Marshall. Any shot that Rice has against Marshall?
No, none. I'm kind of looking forward to this Runners Charlotte game.
I like that too. I don't
Yeah.
think I think Runners are a better team, but Charlotte
Yeah.
beat Western Kentucky at one point this year
Yeah. they
and
did.
lost to non-D1 Belmont Abbey this year.
Right.
Mhm.
Somebody was half kidding, but they were only half kidding. UTEP coming off a really impressive showing against Kansas, a little bit inexplicably. I think they, based only on that, and this is the ultimate recency bias, I think they get by FAU, and I think North Texas rolls middle.
I agree with you on North Texas. I think the FAU UTEP game could be a good game in terms of it being a close game.
Yeah.
I could see. I don't know who's I'm picking. I'll go with UTEP, but just out of recency bias. But
Yeah.
that's the only reason. We got a lot of conferences that are tipping off tomorrow. We've got about a bunch more to get to here tonight.
Yeah.
But before we get to them, one conference that is back in action tomorrow. It is semifinal day in the Patriot League, with the doubleheader of Loyola at Army and followed by Bucknell at Colgate. Loyola coming off the huge win over Navy. Can they do it to the other service academy?
No. Well, they did it to Navy, which I was stunned, and they ruined the Army Navy semi that I had been looking forward to. But no, I think Army gets it done. I'm actually picking Army to win this tournament.
Are you picking?
I am their first ever NCAA tournament bid.
I think Colgate's going to get by Bucknell, although interestingly, Colgate's only played 3 teams so far this season. Bucknell is a brand new team for them.
Yeah, they're not going to know what to do.
It'd be interesting to see if Colgate wins this game. What happens to their number 8 overall net now that you've introduced a 4th team into the
Yeah,
equation? It may go from 8 to 50 in one night despite
Yeah.
winning a game.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about how those numbers work, but you are introducing a new opponent here, and then they could get a repeat opponent if they play Army in the championships.
Yeah.
Only played BU, Army, and Holy Cross this season up until coming up here tomorrow night, Wednesday night.
Mhm.
Lot more conferences still to hit. It is opening round day in the Big East with the Georgetown Marquette, Xavier Butler, and Providence DePaul games. David, do you see any, in terms of seeds, at least upsets in tomorrow's games?
I don't. Well, okay. I could see. I do like Marquette over Georgetown. But
I think Georgetown's playing way better than Marquette right now.
Do you
Despite
really?
Marquette
Okay.
beating Carolina recently, Georgetown, I think they're really coming together. Not enough to get further than tomorrow, but
Yeah.
coming together.
But that's an interesting. I mean, this is a pretty good 8-9 game between two teams that, while they don't have the overall profile, not even close really, have at times shown that they can play against the top level. And Villanova kind of like on the ropes a little bit with an injury. You got to watch out for that quarterfinal game if you're Villanova. As far as the other two, I Xavier can probably play their way in without the auto bid, but if they lose tomorrow, forget it.
This could be an elimination game for Xavier if they lose it. And
Yeah,
and Butler has won a couple games lately. That could be dangerous for Xavier.
yeah, and then
Providence and Paul
Providence.
is meaningless, but
It is, but Providence, while they need the auto bid, like Marquette and Georgetown, they have had moments of brilliance.
yeah, they have. In terms of the overall conference, given Villanova's injury situation, given Creighton's up and downness and off-court issues and who knows what else, given the fact that I don't have faith in St. John's or Seton Hall, I think that's going to be a great quarterfinal, and that could be a
Right.
play-in, play-out game as well. I'm going with UConn to win this thing.
Yeah, like it's kind of funny. Like I don't know if you're a Sherlock Holmes fans, but when you read that story, you have to eliminate what's impossible to get to what's possible. Villanova's injured. Georgetown and Marquette are too inconsistent. St. John's, I don't have any faith in. Don't have any faith in Seton Hall either. Creighton, too many off the court issues. Xavier's just not good enough. Butler is even worse. Providence, too inconsistent. DePaul stinks, and then UConn, it's Chad's favorite team. So I don't think anybody's going to win this tournament, Chad.
He's going with yeah. I think UConn with Book Knight healthy is playing the best of any of these teams coming.
I would agree. I wouldn't. It wouldn't shock me if it's Johnny's UConn in the final.
And it's kind of the story here. UConn and the return to the Big East wins in their first year back.
Yeah. Oh,
it's opening round day in the Big Ten tournament, where we've got powerful games between Northwestern Minnesota, Penn State, Nebraska. David, do you care who wins either of these games?
Not really.
They're also going to be the only two games you're not going to care about because everybody else in this tournament, with the exception of Indiana, is either in the NCAA, is probably in the NCAA tournament at the moment I check. I think all other 9 teams are there, and if not having been locked in yet, will be called on Selection Sunday. And not going through every single matchup. We'll do that as we go through night by night, but this conference, you're going to have a Final Four of Michigan, Purdue, Illinois, Iowa. I don't know that the national Final Four is going to be that good,
Right.
because you'll have a few. If you have a 5 or a 6 seed that makes the Final Four, it won't be this good.
Right.
Who wins this though?
I don't. Wow. Illinois. I think I'm going with the Illini.
I'm going to go a little bit off here, even though they have the toughest road because they've got to play Ohio State in the quarterfinal. Then they got to play Michigan, and then they got to play the Illinois, Iowa. I think they're the quietest team. They've kind of snuck into that force. I'm going Purdue.
You like them that much?
I really
like
this
Purdue a
team.
lot. I like them enough to beat Ohio State in the quarters. I just don't know if they got enough to get by Michigan. And I'll tell you what. Well, we'll get to this tomorrow, but for pre-quarterfinal games, I don't know if you call those opening round games or second round games. You're seeing high caliber games that impact the NCAA tournament pre-quarterfinals.
Yeah, you see that when we see that 8-9 Maryland Michigan State game. We'll talk about that tomorrow night. That's insane. Yeah. This is an insane tournament. Another insane tournament also starts tomorrow. The Big 12 tips off with a pair of games of very little meaning here. TCU, Kansas State, completely meaningless. Oklahoma, Iowa State.
Completely
this for 2 reasons. Well, number one, if Oklahoma loses, it will impact their seed significantly. If they win, nothing happens. Number two, assuming Iowa State does lose, they may be locking up the Stallings Award for the worst powered conference team in the nation.
Well, we're going to have a debate about this because the one thing you don't see any really bad losses for Iowa State. I mean, everybody they played was a Big 12 team, but
we'll have the debate. It'll be debatable, but in terms of not much in terms of tomorrow, but what about this conference tournament as a whole with Baylor, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas Tech?
Once you get past the opening round, you have essentially 7 teams that are of the 8 remaining, assuming the chalk holds, that are competing for protected seeds. Now, to give you an idea of, there's only 1 protected seed, or there's only 4 protected seeds in each region to get to the Final Four. There are 7 potentially in this tournament, Chad.
I don't think we'll get to 7. I think Oklahoma slipped up a few times recently. That probably knocked them off that line. Texas Tech as well. They'd have to make a deep run here to get back into that protected seed. I would have liked to have said keep an eye on TCU in this tournament, but they draw Baylor, so forget it.
Yeah.
I think they'll pound K-State tomorrow, though, at least.
Yeah.
Opening round day as well in the Mountain West tournament. We've got 3 games: Wyoming, San Jose State. Congrats to San Jose State, 9 seed. That's high for them.
Yeah, it is.
Vegas and Air Force. This game is played on Vegas's home floor as well. And New Mexico, Fresno State. New Mexico's been really bad this season.
Oh, they've been awful.
I,
COVID, they
I
weren't
don't.
good to begin with, but COVID protocol zapped them. I was a little disappointed that we don't get an Air Force Wyoming opening round game.
No Air Force Wyoming. In fact, the odds of a front rage game happening at all in this conference would require Air Force to upset Vegas and Utah State and Colorado, and then
Yeah,
possibly Colorado. I don't see it happening.
yeah,
Wyoming's not getting out of that top of that bracket to the finals. I don't see any upsets tomorrow. I see the 6, 7, 8 seeds winning.
yeah. I do
Uh,
too.
I think the real interesting game in the quarterfinals is going to be Boise State, Nevada. We can talk about that tomorrow night. But in terms of winning this tournament, David, we've been talking San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State. We feel
Yeah,
like we think San Diego State's a lock pretty much at this point. Boise State,
yeah.
Colorado State, right in the bubble. I'm going to go with the Aggies, though. I'm going Utah State to win this thing.
Are you really? Well, I like how
Second year in a row, too.
Yeah, I like how San Diego State has been playing. I don't think their profile is the best, but I think they're like the way they look on the court. I just like how they're playing at this moment in time, and it wouldn't shock me at all. Well, no, I'm going with the Aztecs.
Okay. The interesting thing is Utah State winning this would probably be classified as a bid thief, although the bid that they're going to steal is probably going to be either Boise or Colorado State's bid.
Right.
So I think this is a 3-bid conference, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Boise has to beat Nevada. Oh Lord, they got to beat Nevada.
And Colorado State has to beat Fresno State also. So don't overlook that. Just Boise State's game is a lot tougher. Pac-12 opening round day. No Arizona in this tournament, so there's only 3 first round games. Arizona State playing Washington State, Utah playing Washington, Stanford Cal, the big rivalry there, the big game.
Yeah.
That might be the only thing worth watching just because of the rivalry, though.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching Wazoo this season. They're not there yet, but I think you see evidence. I think they're well coached, and over time, I think that program's going to elevate. It would be nice to see them at least advance to the quarters. I think that there's happier days ahead in their future, so I'll be watching that one. Not too excited about anything else.
David, it's March. Oregon is winning this tournament.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah, Oregon's going to win this.
Okay. I'm not even good.
But we have potentially a really exciting semifinal, if the chalk holds.
We also have a lot of games that are going to be called by Bill Walton here. I think he's on. I think I heard 7 of the games. The nightcaps of both doubleheaders in the semis and the finals. So a lot of Bill Walton. It is opening round day tomorrow in the SEC with only a single game with Auburn not participating. Texas A&M and Vanderbilt. And if there's a single game tomorrow that you cannot watch for whatever reason, don't watch this one because it's not worth it. But
I am a little disappointed that we're not just starting on Thursday with a quintuple header. I really, really think the SEC screwed this up.
But who wins tomorrow? I'm going to go Vanderbilt. I'll go with the upset here.
Yeah, I'll go with Vandy, but neither team very good. Now, after that, we get some pretty good games. Florida inside the bubble. Missouri inside the bubble.
Ole Miss still squarely on the bubble. Kentucky got the talent. They got to win the whole thing, but they have
a lot of noise.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Arkansas. I hesitate there. It's between them and Alabama. I'd love to see an Arkansas-Alabama final. But Arkansas.
I love how Arkansas is playing. I think they win this tournament, and I think they're into the second week. They are really playing well.
Big Sky, it is opening round day. Northern Colorado, Sac State, Portland State, Northern Arizona, and Montana against Idaho. Montana, surprisingly, down there in the 6th seed. Montana and Weber State have dominated this conference for so many years, and they could be meeting in the quarterfinals here. But start with, do you see the upsets in these 3 games on Wednesday?
No. Idaho in contention for the Centenary, although...
I could see Sac State over Northern Colorado. It's not really much of an upset, but
yeah, no, I still like Northern Colorado. Congrats to Southern Utah wrapping up the 1 seed, Rapid Ascension. We already talked about that earlier.
I like Southern Utah. I like their draw there in the top half of the bracket as well. I think Southern Utah gets to the finals here, where I think they're going to lose to Eastern Washington.
Yeah, I agree. Eastern Washington's playing really well. and they got the best pieces.
Yeah, Eastern Washington lost to Idaho State late in the season to allow Southern Utah to get that 1 seed.
Yeah.
One more conference. We've done a lot of them tonight.
Yeah.
It is opening. It is, well, not opening round. It is the first of 2 days of the quarterfinals in the SWAC. We have, these games are all being played in Birmingham this year. We have the 1-8 game.
ESPN3. They've actually got cameras in the building this year.
They've got cameras in the building. The entire tournament will be streamed. We've got Prairie View, Mississippi Valley, and Jackson State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff. Interestingly, 2 of the 3 teams in the nation that went undefeated against their conference so far this season are both in action tomorrow in the SWAC. Third, some team named Gonzaga. You probably heard of them.
Yeah.
David,
No.
I think we're going to have 2 absolute blowouts tomorrow.
I think so too, and I really hope that the chalk holds, because I think that would be a fun story for this conference if Prairie View and Jackson State meet in the championship game.
I think the dangerous game here is going to be a Jackson State Texas Southern semifinal. That's the dangerous game to get there. I think Prairie View gets there. I think Prairie View wins this. But
yeah,
if we can get that undefeated teams in conference meeting for the first time in the conference title game, we need Jackson State to get by Prairie View, or maybe Alcorn State can upset Texas Southern for us.
Yeah.
That's it for the games, though. Wow, there's a lot. Let's jump over to our survival board here before I fall asleep. This is our survival board, though. What is this?
Well, it is a feature on Hoops HD. You can look at it and
Right up there
determine
on the site, yep.
how many teams are still playing, and what their status is, whether or not they're a lock, an automatic bid, under consideration, or needing to win the conference tournament to get in. That's what it is for the viewers, but it is so much more than that, Chad, for the actual selection committee.
Well, let's start with, David, the actual countdown here that's on it. There's 205 teams remaining heading into today with a shot to win the national championship.
Yeah.
And as a result of today's action, that number has dropped. Can we get below 200? 189.
Oh,
wow.
There were that many games today?
Yeah,
It felt like a light day.
We got down to 189 teams left, but let's talk about the way that these teams are designated.
Yes.
For example, let's scroll down here and you can see, now, so the selection committee comes to this screen, and they use it to help them pick teams that are in the field.
Yeah,
correct?
It basically dictates who they select.
Okay, so if they come here and they're wondering whether or not Cleveland State should be in the field.
Well, yes, because I mean, there it is, and the reason they know that is because Cleveland State is in bold and all caps.
They are an automatic bid.
Which means they're an automatic qualifier. Now, we have to be really careful here, Chad, because imagine if we made a mistake and had them in italics for some reason. The committee might not select them.
If we had mistyped this and we had accidentally typed in that Oakland won this game, well, Cleveland State fans would be very upset at us.
Yeah, I know, because the committee would probably take Oakland.
Yeah, they would take Oakland. They'd have to. Now, if you see teams in regular bold, those are teams that we consider locks. They have not won an automatic bid, but no matter what, even if they do not win another game this season, these teams are in. So Ohio State, Purdue, Rutgers, Michigan, all those Big Ten teams in bold, they're in no matter what.
Yeah.
The teams that are in regular type. So if I'm a committee member, David, I come to this page and I'm saying, I'm wondering about I watched that Cal Poly game tonight. They looked really good. I'm wondering about giving them an at-large bid. What should I do?
Well, I mean, that's why it's important that they check this site, because they would see, oh, Cal Poly is in regular type. We shouldn't even be considering them. And just for verification, a lot of people doubt that the committee looks at this. But what happened the last time, Chad, that the committee took a team that we did not have labeled as?
It was about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. They took Tulsa. They were they were not even on the screen at that point. And two members got thrown off because of it.
Yeah, two members.
20% of the committee, and lucky could have been more.
It could have been more. So they removed 2 members of that committee. If
a committee member is in the room and saying, Xavier, I was watching, they were talking about them, that they needed wins, they may not, we didn't win, is this a team we should be debating?
Yes, because they're in italics.
They're in italics. They're going to know by looking at this. That now, some of these teams are going to change. I'm looking here. I see UConn is still in italics. That's probably going to go into bold very, very soon.
Yeah, maybe by as soon as we're done with the show.
Yeah, maybe the next 10 minutes here. But because we do double check it, and we to make sure that there are no mistakes in here, because it's a very important duty.
Yeah, it is very important.
What if a committee member comes to this site, David, and he says, you know what? I watched that. I was a James Madison fan all season.
Yeah.
And I know they got upset by Elon. They won the Colonial regular season championship. They got upset by Elon in the quarterfinals. I think we should consider them for an at-large bid.
If that happens, they are removed from the hotel.
because James Madison is not on the
Yeah,
board. You cannot consider them.
yeah. Security removes them from the building. Is what happens if they try something like that.
Let's go to our hot seat.
Yes.
HoopsHD.com presents the hot seat. This is where we are going reviewing coaches that need to stay on that board, get into the
Yes.
NCAA tournament because they may be on the hot seat for various reasons. You can check back in our prior podcast, find all the prior coaches all the way through Gito Auriemma last night and the hashtag Fire Gito movement and all of that, right, David?
Yes, you can.
But we have another coach that's on the hot seat tonight. One of our favorite coaches for years here at Hoops HD as well. But
Yes.
unfortunately, we have to announce that he is on the hot seat. It's Mr. Mick Cronin.
Yes. So Mick Cronin,
let me kind of let me throw this out here because I did a little research into him, David, and
Okay.
he's pretty good on making some quotes to the media.
Yeah.
Now, these are some verified quotes that I've had from it. Well, possibly verified quote I had from when he was at Cincinnati, broke the top 25 one year, and he said that he said that he was going to start wearing a hoodie all around campus so nobody would recognize him, so he didn't get mobbed by all the fans.
Okay.
But that was a decent one.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably kidding. Good sense of humor. And they love their basketball in Cincinnati. It could happen.
Now, he also had a bad history at Cincinnati of not getting past the second round of the NCAA tournament. Could win the first round game, could not win the second round game, could not get to the Sweet 16.
Could get ranked in the top 10.
And as a result, when interviewed, he said, you know what? We don't care about getting to the Sweet 16. We only care about winning national championships.
Yeah, again, just another mind-numbing quote.
You understand, to get a national championship. What is one of the steps on the way there, David? Getting to
there have not been many national champions that did not get to the Sweet 16. Maybe a few when it was an 18 field back in the 1940s.
And then came a quote that is, I have not confirmed 100%, but it's alleged to have happened to him from him tomorrow recently, David. You want to tell us what he said?
Okay, I have it here, and I'm reading this off Twitter, and it's from the Marcus Walters. Now, let me see if I can figure out who Marcus Walters is.
It is an unverified tweet, but it sounds so.
TV Insider. I guess he's from Dayton. I don't know if this is real or not. But the thing is, you hear this and you're like, well, Mick Cronin would say this. I don't understand why we have to play a 5 seed first round. We're a 4 seed. We should be playing an 8 seed. We're the 4th best team. We should be playing the 4th worst. And there's quite a bit to unpack here. But the most obvious thing is that this guy clearly, if this statement is accurate, does not understand the basic principles of how a bracket works. And he's not playing in the first round. He's playing in the quarterfinals. I don't even know if he's aware of that.
He doesn't know how the bracket works. He doesn't know you got to get to the Sweet 16. So I'm sorry, Mick. And you know what? I took a look at it, Mick. If we want to do the way you did it, this is our new Pac-12 bracket here.
Yes, this is the Mick Cronin. Can we label this the Mick Cronin?
This is the Mick Cronin Pac-12 bracket. We've got here. It's the 4-8 game that you wanted against Arizona State. Winner gets Oregon. We got Oregon Cal because they're the one.
Oregon State gets a bye and UCLA doesn't because he didn't want. He wanted to play in the first round.
We got Cal and Washington. We'll give them buys. I mean, 6-7. I guess I should be the. I don't know. I spent about an hour on this last night trying to find a way to make this bracket work. It doesn't work, Mick. It's not possible to bracket you to play the 8 seed in the quarterfinals. It does not work that way. So I'm sorry, Mick, because of your problems with math. You're going on the Hoops HD hot seat.
Yeah.
On that note, I guess that's everything we have for tonight, David. Do you want to have any other final thoughts, or can we just go to bed now?
We can just go to bed. We are getting into Wednesday and Thursday, 2 of the best days of championship week, especially Thursday. So we'll be here the whole time.
Yeah, and we've got a very busy show last night. You saw how many games
we didn't get a Thursday last year. So
yeah, we saw how many games we previewed. So we're gonna have a very busy show tomorrow night. We've got a few more conferences that haven't even tipped. They're gonna start on Thursday. So we may be going about 3 hours worth of show tomorrow night. So get the coffee ready. But on behalf of David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you again sometime late tomorrow night.